Hey there, Aubrey. How's it going today?
I'm great. How are you, Lindsay?
Good, Aubrey. When is the last time you took a cab? Now, do you consider
Oh,
cab a Lyft or an Uber or a taxi
now
cab, or
that's a
do you
good
consider?
question.
Yeah,
Because, yeah,
that's
usually if we say cab or taxi, we mean like an actual taxi cab. But more and more
right.
as they're replaced by Uber and Lyft, I probably
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even say cab anymore. I'd say, when's the last time you got a ride share? Or
Ah,
often we say, when's the last time you got an Uber? And
yeah.
then we are referring to any cab or taxi or Lyft or anything. What about you? How do you say it now?
Yeah, well, I do know people that
I'm
call
curious.
cabs all of those things. The yellow cabs in New York, the Lyfts and the Ubers. I have
And they'll
heard
just say
people
cab.
call it that, but I think now it's like Kleenex. Kleenex is the brand name, but it's tissue, right? You need a
Right.
tissue, it's a Kleenex. You need a ride, it's a lift. I say
Yeah, so you
lift.
might
I say
say what
lift.
it
Yeah.
Lyft.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
but I use both apps. So,
Yeah,
anyways, when's the last time you took a yellow cab? Usually they're yellow, not always.
right? An actual yellow cab when I
Yeah.
was living in New York is the last time that I took an actual cab, but it's funny, I lived uptown, so anyone who's been to New York, it's mostly like yellow cabs downtown, and then uptown are like the black cars. We call them gypsy cabs, which I don't know if that's appropriate, but they're like, often unmarked, but they are a cab company. Did you ever take one of those
Ah.
black cabs?
Yeah, I had a few friends that took that, but I was never cool enough to know how to order one. I was a
They were just,
Subway
like, on the
girl.
street everywhere, like, the yellow
Okay.
cabs were downtown, and then uptown, it's like they're just like a black car, and you just go get it, and it's kind of
Oh,
crazy, actually.
interesting. Yeah, no,
Funny,
I
but it's
only
been a
took cab.
while. I have
Yeah.
done
Mhm. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have done Uber and Lyft
Yeah.
here and
Yeah.
wherever else I'm going, but it's been since I lived in New York that I just, like, jumped in a cab.
Yeah, I would only take cabs in New York when I had family in town, and I just didn't wanna deal with taking them on the subway. I thought it was gonna be kind of a disaster, so I would get a cab. Most of the time, I was just in the subway.
Same. We mostly
Yeah.
took the subway too. One of the few times I got a cab was when I had a newborn, and I'm
Oh,
like,
I'm
"I'm not taking this
sure.
newborn on the or,
Oh,
like, right after, I had a cesarean section, so
yeah,
sometimes
no,
we didn't
no.
have the option of getting on the subway.
100% coming back from the hospital? Oh my gosh, no.
Right? No.
Uh, well, Aubrey, how does this tie into today's topic? What are we talking about today?
Yeah, so we're talking about the phrase "here you go," which we're
Mhm.
gonna share all the times we use this, and one of them is when you're in a cab, often when they pull up to your where you've arrived, this is what they're gonna say. They'll be like, "Here you go," and this means we've
Uh-huh.
arrived where you need to be.
Y
So we're going to dive into all of the ways, all the, the things that "here you go" could mean. This came
Yes.
up recently on an episode, right?
Okay, yeah, and stay to the end to the episode to know which episode it was. We'll send you to that one as your next listening option after today's episode, but in the meantime, everyone, hit that follow button right now, all right? So you don't miss a single episode of All Ears English.
Yes, let them just be dropped right into your queue so that they are ready for you. Hit
Yes.
follow on All Ears English.
All right. So coming back to here you go, right? There's a lot of scenarios where we
Yes.
might hear this and we do have to get it right. There are nuances, right? For
Right.
connection.
They're
Yeah.
tricky. Yeah, we talked recently about "there you go."
Yeah.
"Here you go," we use in some pretty specific scenarios, so we're gonna talk
Mhm.
about the 3 main ones today. First of all, of course, and the most common is when you're giving something to someone, like maybe a server sets down your food and says, "Here you go." It's just
Yes.
another way of saying, "I'm giving you what you asked for."
Here you go. And then a more formal way of saying that would be here you are. I feel like if you go to a
Yes, we
fancy
hear that as
restaurant,
well.
they would
Mhm.
swap in here you are,
"Here you
right? I'm
are."
not sure why that's more fancy, but it just is for some
And it's
reason.
really strange, I could imagine you guys listening being confused if someone says, "Here you are," because literally that would mean, like, "Here you are, you exist as a person." It really
It's
has
strange.
nothing to do with giving someone something, so it's kind of strange.
It's very weird. So other things maybe you hand something to someone, and you say to them, "Here you go," right? More casual on the street or something. If they need something,
Yes.
they need a Kleenex. Here you go,
Right,
right?
and it's
Mhm.
interesting that in at least the culture in the United States, it would be sort of strange to hand something to someone without saying anything.
Yes.
Right? And I don't
Yes.
know what that's like elsewhere in the world as much, maybe
Mhm.
similar, where, like, if you're going to hand something, we would always say something like, "Here you are, here you go, this is the most common. Here you go."
Yeah, it's a good point. I wonder if other cultures that are more comfortable with silence, that would be okay to just to
Just
hand
hand
something to
something.
someone. We're not very comfortable with silence here. So,
I
but
know.
but I'm not sure if that's the reason that we say that. I'm not
Right.
sure, but we do have a role play, Aubrey. Shall we dive
Yes, we're
into
gonna
it?
do a mini role play because often this is sort of just used as a response. So I'll start us.
Okay.
Did you happen to bring that costume that you borrowed?
Oh, yes. Here you go. All right.
Exactly, right? So often it's like someone has asked you something and you're going to give it to them and just say, "Here you go."
Yes, and we have a bonus here, Aubrey. You said, "Did you happen to bring?" You didn't say, "Did you bring?" What would be the difference there in meaning? Just a little
Yeah.
bonus for today. We can go
I
into this
love this
another day.
bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we could maybe do a whole episode about this,
Yeah.
but when we add happen to this way, it softens the bluntness of a request. It makes it okay if their answer is no. Like if you had forgotten to bring that costume, it's very easy for me to like, no problem. Did you happen to? It's like, oh, no big deal either way.
Yeah, it really becomes a lot less intrusive, a lot less direct, a lot
Yes.
friendlier, a lot lighter, doesn't it?
Right. If I say, did you bring that costume? It implies that I will be upset if you
Right.
didn't.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe like your kid would say, "Did you bring the costume, mom?" Right? But
Right.
to a friend, if your friend was doing you a favor, you're more likely to add, "Did you happen to
Yes.
bring that costume?"
Right.
Right? Very
Especially if it
different.
really isn't a big deal, like they're needing to return something, you don't need it right away.
Yeah.
This is perfect to add to make sure it's clear that no big deal if not.
Y I love it. Okay, so when you're handing something to someone, that is one situation where we would see, "Here you go." But there's another one, Aubrey, that our listeners need
Yeah.
to know.
Number 2 is
What
what I
is
was
it?
talking about, taxi cabs, right? It's said when arriving. And just like you said,
Mhm.
Lindsay, we would also say, "Here you are," "Here you
Uh-huh.
go," "Here you are," or even, "Here we are." Sometimes if
Mhm.
someone is giving you a ride and they arrive at the destination, they might say, "Here you go." And that means like, "We're here, you can get
Uh,
out."
uh-huh, I love that, yeah, here you go, so we're here, for example, "Here you go, 332 Sycamore Street."
Exactly, or,
My
"Here
Lyft
you
drivers
go,
aren't
Columbus
quite as
Circle."
my Lyft
Totally.
drivers aren't quite as enthusiastic as that, but,
As a very enthusiastic Lyft driver. But yeah, you
Yeah.
might hear this, right? And I could see it being confusing if you're not, familiar with these phrases they're not gonna say, "We have arrived, get out." No, they're gonna say, "Here you go," or "Here we are."
Yeah, I mean, I think in certain regions or cities in the US, you'd be less likely to hear something than or for example, at Columbus Circle in New York, probably the taxi cab just pulls over
Yeah,
and
could
stops
be.
and
Doesn't
expects
say
you to get
anything.
out, doesn't say
He's like,
anything. Don't
"Obviously,
expect this.
we're here, so get
Maybe
out."
exactly. Maybe in some small town where you're the only customer of the whole day and they're very excited to talk with you, you might hear this. So just don't
They're
expect to
more
hear it
likely to
every
be
time.
friendly for
Yes.
sure.
All right, number 3, Aubrey. What is the other thing where we hear this? Here you go.
Okay, this is this really fun chunk where we say, "Here you go," and then usually being something. Now, this implies you know someone well and that they're doing something typical, something that you would expect from them, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, I might say to you, Lindsay, if you and I are playing tennis and you beat me, you do really
Yeah.
well, I might say, "Here you go, being the best tennis player I know again." Right? So
Yeah,
this is definitely something that you're going to use for people you know well. It
yeah.
wouldn't make any sense unless this is expected behavior.
Yeah, it feels very friendly, like close friends saying that you know what to expect from this person. It's also very high level, right? It's very
Yes.
natural. It's not
Exactly.
basic at all, this
No, I
use.
agree.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's very, like we said earlier, accessible, right? You guys can say this right away. It's very natural sounding and friendly. It's a
Mhm.
great way to connect with someone.
Yep.
It's a little more awkward if I say, "Wow, Lindsay, you're just amazing at tennis." And then
Yeah,
the
exactly.
compliment is sometimes a little, but this is like a playful compliment,
It's
right?
it's definitely playful for sure.
Yeah.
And so this could be a great connection takeaway from today's episode, once we get to the end, we'll see what the takeaway is, but I mean, this is one of the ways to connect these cute little phrases that really are playful and are used with closer friends because you're showing that you know what to expect from them and you've seen
Yes.
this from them.
Yeah, and you
Um
might say it about someone else, right? If we
mhm.
have a friend that does something really thoughtful, I might say to you, "Oh, here she goes being so thoughtful." And so this is a
Yes.
way of saying she's always thoughtful and here she's doing it again.
Exactly. All right. And then is there another way we might see this constructed?
Yeah, we will also see this with there as well, right? Just
Okay.
like with there you go, here you go when you're handing someone something, you'll also hear there you go being, or
Mhm. Yeah.
there she goes being so thoughtful.
Right, exactly. So again, just saying that you're seeing the person do something or be some way and you expected that, right? Super high
Yes.
level. Love it. Aubrey, let's put it together in a role play here. So you are a Lyft driver, okay?
Yeah, and you're
Um
getting a ride.
all right.
I'll start us out. Here you go, Times Square.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
That'll be $35.
Here you go. Keep the change.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Nice. Yeah. And it's funny because now we'll see this even coming out of style because now I think generally, well, you can still use cash in cabs. I think you can at least, but
Who
mostly it's
knows?
just a credit card
The
swipe
card.
on the back of the seat right in front of you in cabs,
Exactly, right? And you
right?
could even say, "Here you go," and if you're handing them a card to pay, but
Yeah.
if it is the swipe in the back, there's
Yeah.
not gonna be an opportunity to do this, you're just swiping and paying. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much less personal all of that is becoming.
It's true. Now, Aubrey, can we say here as well? What if we want to drop the you go and just say here? What is it? What does that change
It's
for
a
our
really good
listeners?
question. Here you
Yeah.
go is definitely more friendly, more informal.
Hmm.
Here feels a little more abrupt to me. If someone just says here and hands me
Yeah.
something, I
I
would
agree.
almost be worried they're mad at me about something.
Exactly. Yeah,
Here.
exactly. Not always, but a lot of the time, yeah, it's a lot shorter, more abrupt, more direct. Maybe they are mad at
Yeah.
you or here,
Yeah.
you know,
Or in
take
a
this.
hurry, right?
Right.
If you
Yes.
like, maybe you're at work and someone hands you a file and just says here, they're probably
Correct.
in a hurry, right? They don't
Hmm.
have time to even to say here you go.
Exactly. It's important. So here you go, here you are, and here are all options, but they do have different contexts, right? Just
Right.
within these three variations. All right.
Now here's
Anything
something to
else?
think about,
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Hmm.
Why didn't we use here you go being in this cab?
Here you go being. Well, you mean when I was handing the money to
Yeah,
when
well,
we,
either of us, right? Because
yeah.
we don't know each other. It's a Lyft driver and
No,
someone giving
yeah.
them a ride. You
Yeah.
really have to know the person well to ever
Yeah.
say, "Oh, here," like if you said, "Here you go being such a good driver,"
That'd be
that
very
you would have
weird
had to give me 100 rides and we're friends for that
for
to make any
friends.
sense, right?
No, yeah, no, that would be really weird, definitely.
Right, it
It's
implies familiarity.
familiarity, you know the person, maybe you're close to them,
Mhm.
absolutely. So very different uses here. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we
Mhm.
also want to share the episode that this came up on was 2321, where it was called "There You Go, one phrase for confirming in English." And
Mhm.
so yeah, be sure to scroll up, make sure you don't miss that one. That's also a
Yes.
great episode.
Go check that out. And what's our takeaway for today? Where do we wanna leave our listeners?
Yeah, well, native chunks like this really go a long ways to make you sound natural in English. But I love
Mhm.
what you pointed out that this is such a great connection skill
Yeah.
to compliment someone in such a playful way, right? Someone just
Yeah.
like, it's like where you elbow somebody playfully. Here you go, being so amazing
Right.
at this. Then
Yeah.
they're just going to be like, I know, right? I'm the best. And it's great
Yeah.
instead of some awkward, like, oh, no, I don't know. Sometimes compliments
Right.
can be awkward.
Right, right, exactly, and it could even be maybe the person said something awkward, right? They said something awkward, but in an endearing way, you can, again, elbow that, like, "Here you go being silly," right? It's a joke, you're
Here
just
you
kind of
go being the
you're
most
just
awkward
teasing
person
them.
ever. Totally.
Maybe that you could pull that off. Well, it depends on the relationship, right? But yeah, maybe that's the very high level takeaway. If you wanna use that specific construction at the, B2, C1 level, we can do that and build connection quickly, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Just reserve it for people you know well. But even if you have a speaking partner and you've
Yeah.
chatted several times, you're getting to know each other well, you could totally say, here you go, using amazing vocabulary again. Because all you're saying is you've noticed them do it before,
Yeah.
they're doing it again, right? It just has to be something you've observed in the past.
And it actually could make you closer to the person as well,
Yes,
right?
totally.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, cool. So hopefully we'll see our listeners, our students in our courses start to use this in our open conversation club and our student-led conversation clubs because those are cropping up now, Aubrey, right?
Yes, they're so fun, right? Students opening speaking practice all over the world. It's so
Yes.
fun to be part of the Others English community. And I agree. We would love to see you guys there.
All right, sounds great. Well, guys, hit follow and we'll see you in the next episode. Aubrey, you have a
Awesome.
good one. All
See you
right.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.